I want to be appreciative of your time. I think it's right at 3:30, and we've got like a 55-minute session. So let me thank you for coming, and so we can just kick off. We're ready to go. All right, excellent. So obviously, I'm guessing the fact that you're here, you saw that this is a session on storage. If you've been here for the day, I've been listening to a lot of the keynotes and some of the other sessions. All of them have been making the case around the shortage of skills, the needs for different kinds of training, and so hopefully it won't be redundant. But my plan or intent for today was to sort of set the stage as, all right, if you're a faculty member and you're interested in adding storage and data management to your curriculum, why should you do that? And then, all right, if you are interested, what are some resources that are available? And can you give us some examples? And so basically what we hope to cover today is a quick introduction. As I mentioned, a little bit about Storage Matters. I'll talk a little bit about some of the resources. And really, with just a half dozen of us or so here to talk about some examples of what schools have done, their different approaches, and how you might look at it at your institution. So I'm Mark Conway. I'm with NetApp. I run NetApp's Academic Alliances program. So my job is to work with faculty members from colleges and universities around the world to provide resources to them. Joining me today is Tony Colson, who's the director of the Cybersecurity Center at CSU San Bernardino, also a professor in the School of Business, and Ramin Elahi, who's an adjunct faculty member at UC Santa Cruz. He also works with us at NetApp as a training architect, and we were talking, he's just re-engineering our Engineering 101, the curriculum that we use to train internally our employees when they come in to get them. So I think we've got some good expertise here. And I guess my goals for the session, certainly please jump in if you have another goal, but really we wanted to provide you to high-level introduction to sort of some storage management, data management technologies and trends, highlight some of the teaching resources that we can make available to you at no charge if you wanted to leverage them at your school, discuss some specific case examples of how different schools have approached it. It really does not seem to be a cookie-cutter, one-size-fits-all. And then hopefully have you leave here with the resources, context, and materials that if you wanted to move forward at your institution, that you could go forward and do that. Is there anything else that if you were to walk out here and say, this was the best session out of MPICT today, what do I need to provide to you to get that rating? Anything? Yes, sir. Absolutely. In fact, if you'd like, I'd give you a copy of this deck to take with you. It was funny, we were just talking about that. As I listened to the keynotes and many of the other press sessions today, I often hear from schools, one of their challenges is talking to the chairman of the department, the dean, or the administration as to why we might want to add a new class. I know there's cost, there's review processes and all that, but it just strikes me that the case is so compelling that there's no way they can say no. So hopefully we can arm you with that kind of information as well. And so maybe to just jump right into that. This was a slide Ramin had come across. I think it jumps right out to you. This is, the issue, you hear all these studies, all these presentations around the volume of data. There's the volume of data, the velocity of data, the variety of data, unstructured data, social media. But just a few of the statistics in terms of this is every minute of the day. So initially, I didn't realize, I was looking at this, it seems kind of, low, these numbers for a day. This is every minute of the day. Instagram users share 3,600 photos. Storage companies, we love that. We love people taking all those pictures and having to post it. I think the statistic I heard at Facebook, something like 10,000 new pictures an hour loaded, or 100,000 on Facebook. So if you look at the websites created, the mobile web views, YouTube users, 48 hours worth of content is uploaded every minute. That's going to be stored somewhere. So one of the things, I guess, part of my case might be to, you know, a dean or a chairperson is, there's all these new technologies that are coming out. You don't want to just be chasing the latest fad. And if you're going to develop new curriculum and test and do training yourself, you don't want to in 6 months or 9 months find out that that was just the, you know, the latest technology fad. All of the trends would speak to that. If this is a skill set that you develop for your students, the only trend that we see is just the continued volume of data growth. And if you take that last slide that says, here's what's being created every minute, this was just an example I saw last night in terms of what physically would it take to store all that data. It would take 80 billion 16 gigabyte iPhones, 40 billion Apple iPads. It would fill up 33, if you put it on a flash drive, no, my flash drive is in the computer. If you put it on a flash drive, it would fill up 33 statues of, not Statues of Liberty, Empire State Buildings. Technically, we use the term that's a shitload of data being developed every day, I think. And so, you know, again, you could pick up Business Week, Information Week, Computer World, on any of the magazines that are just going to talk about the volumes of data. And, you know, I was looking at my deck from last year. We presented it last year. And this was a slide that came out in February when we NetApp had just announced a new flash storage, a flash array technology. And so Forbes was doing a story on storage technologies, particularly around flash. So, you know, their point was, over the past couple of years, storage was going from snorage, kind of being boring. You know, we would often argue that sometimes storage is the forgotten stepchild. Facebook, all these other, Google, you know, are consumer-facing technologies that are a little bit more sexy. But as you start to see the demand based on these items that we just talked about, storage is now becoming an area of much interest. I've been now working at NetApp a little over 3 years, and I'm struck by just the change in conversation with faculty from 3 years ago as to, well, you know, you really had to make the case around storage, to now the discussion is much more, well, what do you got that I can use to take advantage of? So this is from February of this year. Okay, storage is getting sexy and it's a hot thing. This is from 2 weeks ago in the San Jose Mercury News. Data storage is now a favorite target for investors. NetApp had a pretty good year. SanDisk had a great year. Mountain Pure Storage, I don't want to do ads for our competition, but they just got $150 million in VC funding. Nimble Storage did an IPO earlier this month, and it went through the roof. So, you know, just as Forbes was predicting in February, storage has really moved to be kind of a more hot and dynamic area in terms of value creation and opportunity. And I can tell you there's certainly a fight for talent among some of the players up on this page. So why is storage top of mind? I mean, this is a kind of a little bit of a sort of a review of what we just covered, but you know, the data growth that most companies, this is from Information Week from last year, but it was on their state of storage for 2013, you know, that companies are dealing with, you know, 20 to 50% data growth. Most IT budgets at companies are growing 1 to 3%. So you can't just keep buying more and more storage and equipment and throwing it at it. And so what you're seeing is if you're now, where 40% of these companies are managing over 100 terabytes of data, you really start to need to have skill sets to how do we more efficiently manage our data? How do we optimize our storage environment? What are the implications when we start to virtualize all of our infrastructure? And you know, it starts coming to the real bottom line. There's a business case for this. But what they found, and this is kind of what speaks, I think, a bit to the opportunity for you, is that, you know, over a quarter of the company said one of their challenges around managing storage was insufficient staffing. And then another 25% said for the staff that they do have, it's insufficient staff training. There's not a lot of expertise. It's funny, I was in a session on Linux about an hour ago. I was in a session on cloud computing, and you know, this is a common theme, that that companies, the technologies are training so quickly to keep their staff up to speed or to find folks is a real challenge. And, you know, within the storage arena, you know, there are technical drivers, technical changes that are underway. Flash storage, and you know, how are you actually trying to keep stuff rather than having to go to hard disk or solid state disk? How can you retrieve all this information, this big data, much more quickly? Shared service infrastructures, kind of the underlining, you know, virtualized environment. And then as you move out to the cloud environment, NetApp, for those of you who don't know, you know, as an example, we provide the storage infrastructure for Apple iTunes. So every time someone buys a song, it's got to be stored somewhere. You know, that's that storage in the cloud is a huge opportunity for us. We work with Amazon. Right now we're the only vendor working with Amazon's AWS, their cloud environment, because there's some customers that even though Amazon's got a very secure multi-tenant environment where customer A's data can't be shared with customer B, at the end of the day, they have a lot of customers that are saying, I want my own dedicated storage. I don't want to have a chance that it somehow gets mixed up. Coca-Cola does not want their recipe to end up with Pepsi-Cola. And so we have an arrangement for cloud computing, mobility and the volume of it, and converged infrastructures. Ramin will talk to you a little bit about his courses around storage and data centers and what are the implications as you start to do that. And then big data was some of the examples that you know, we talked about. Particularly big data is really being driven by user-developed machine data and is unstructured data. So you hear of Hadoop and other kinds of analytic tools that people are using. It's booming in that area. And then you have, you know, what are the business aspects of it? So again, if you're trying to make a case for, you know, to your management or to your administration, you know, they want to be teaching kids technologies and skills that are going to make them more competitive and attractive in the marketplace, I guess I would argue. And if you look at, you know, cloud service providers are going to spend $22 billion on their infrastructure in the next couple of years. IDC says, you know, big data and analytics and storage infrastructure is going to be almost $400 million. And, you know, one statistic we've been seeing consistently, it looks like the IT business should be pretty good in the next couple of years, that CIOs are looking to hire and add staff and build out this infrastructure. And so anyhow, the industry or the trend is certainly moving in that direction. So, you know, if you buy those principles, I guess, if you buy that argument and you're a professor or instructor saying, okay, well, what do I need to do, or what's available for me to take advantage of? I manage this NetApp Academic Alliance. You've heard, you know, the Cisco Academy, the Citrix Academy, VMware. You know, most of the major vendors have these formal IT collaboration, industry academic partnership programs. I'm part of NetApp University, which is the training arm within NetApp. And so we sell training to our customers. We provide training to our partners. And NetApp now has, I think, about 14,000 employees. Probably all over a third of some kind of an engineering, computer science, technical kind of role. So, you know, we're a small engineering school in a way in terms of the curriculum that we develop. And what I'm able to do is to harvest or cherry pick that content and make it available to academic institutions, to faculty members, as long as it's used for teaching purposes. And so those resources, you could, I guess the quickest way to describe it is a value chain, or you could think of it as a continuum. And so one of our most popular offerings are some of our web-based training classes. So if you're teaching a class on networks and data communications, it's a 16-week semester, and you'd like to offer 1 or 2 hours around storage, we can give you a great course on storage fundamentals, on storage area networks, on network protocols, and you know, so you get 90 minutes out of the semester. If you wanted to move up the value chain, we have virtual simulators that we can make available. If you think of NetApp, if you were to walk into a data center and you saw the racks of, you know, HP and Dell servers, and you see the Cisco networking gear, and then you saw the NetApp, you would think that we're a hardware vendor, and we provide the storage filers. But at the end of the day, our solution is software. And so we can make the exact same software that we use, that we sell to our customers, that we use internally. We can make that available. And we have a wealth of teaching materials, white papers. One of I guess not one of the most common, or a common feedback that I get from faculty and students is a lot of the resources we can make available, technical white papers, Gartner analyst papers, typically might be somewhere between 6 and 18 months old. They're pretty current. Whereas, a lot of textbooks, given the pace of change, if they were written 3 years ago, probably 50% of them are out of date. So we can provide very current materials. My role and what I do a lot is kind of curriculum consulting with faculty members. Here's my syllabus. This is what we're teaching. Here's the new course that we're hoping to launch. What might you suggest? Here's the sequence that we're covering right now. So, a lot of my interaction with folks like you is on how or where you would fit storage or what kind of concepts. And when I use storage, I'm talking everything from data center consolidation to cloud to virtualization to pure storage infrastructure as well. And one thing that I'll hit that. I'll touch on this industry certification as well. It's the far end of the continuum that we can offer. So if you were to look at, again, what is it that you could take over and make available at your school, we've got some packages, for instance. So Storage 101, if you wanted to just do a couple hours worth of storage, these are 3 web-based courses. We can enroll you in advance. We can enroll your students. These 3 courses represent about 2 hours worth of content. They're professionally developed, interactive, animated, voiceover. They're pretty engaging. The feedback that we get from students, you probably know this better than I. Today's students don't want to sit down and read Great Expectations and Toy Story. They're much more into the interactive stuff. So this is engaging and keeps their interest. If you wanted to move up that value chain, we have a 6-hour class on our software, Data on Tap Fundamentals. You can couple that with our virtual simulator, and so you as an instructor can pretty easily develop anywhere from 10 to 14, 15 hours of hands-on lab exercises, coupled with a web class, and make it very easy to integrate into your curriculum. If you yourself wanted to take training, we have most of the materials we make available are virtual or web-based, but if you wanted to go, we just had close to 30 instructors down in Australia. They're on their summer break, coming to take a week's worth of training, as they're going to be rolling out some storage courses starting in their next semester. But if you wanted to go for professional development training yourself, we can make that available. And last year, we kind of pre-announced at this conference rolling out a new storage. Could I ask you, I know professors are very good at handing out materials here. If you could do that. So, one of the things that we heard was that employers were looking for certification. Many of the community colleges or 2-year schools that we were working with were familiar with that. And so we put together a certification. It's called the NetApp Certified Storage Associate. It's specifically designed for college students, college and university students. We had an entry-level certification before, but it's sort of assumed that you might have had 2 or 3 years experience as a network, systems, or some kind of administrator in the IT field. And if you or I were to just walk in, take the classes, and sit for the exam, that the likelihood of passing would be kind of slim. So this class, this certification, it represents about 28 hours worth of content. There are 9 web-based classes available worldwide. Students can take them anytime that they want. It includes 6 hours of hands-on lab that right now we deliver through a third party called ReadyTech. Thank you, sir. And so the students, we give them a voucher for that. They can log in and do their lab work. And then to get the certification, they would sit for a proctored exam at Pearson View, and again, we would provide the students a voucher for that. So the cost of the certification to the school or to the student is there's no cost. We are looking at updating this. The curriculum has been out a little over a year at this point. NetApp is increasingly focusing around clustering technology to provide non-disruptive operations, particularly because IDC identified us as the #1 storage provider to cloud service providers. We, NetApp, don't provide cloud services ourselves. We sell to the service providers, Verizon, Terramark, a little bit to Amazon. And it's kind of the business model. Many of you, here in San Francisco, you're familiar with the gold rush back in the late 1800s? Who made the money in the gold rush? Who's locally here? Who do you think made the money? You know who made the money was Levi Strauss, who made the dungarees, the guys who sold the shovels, and the railroads. It wasn't necessarily the miners. So I guess what we're trying to do is we're not delivering the cloud services. We're selling the shovels and the infrastructure. This has probably been our most I guess engaging offering right now. We have schools that are taking, and we'll talk about this I guess in the case examples, but this can be offered as a supplement to your curriculum. It can be integrated into the curriculum. It can be offered just to the faculty. We try to make it very flexible in terms of how it can be delivered by the students or taken by the students right now. I think if you've been here through much of the day, this issue around the skills gap, particularly as you look at cloud, virtualization. What we're finding, many of the schools that I work with are part of the VMware Academy, the Citrix Academy, the Cisco Networking Academy. And if you have someone who's got a virtualization or networking certification and can couple that with a storage certification, again, I love the expression the gentleman this morning from Robert Half used. He says, it's not going to get you the job, but it takes jacks a hire to get in. It's sort of the minimum ante, and if your student can come in, it's probably going to get them in the door. They're still going to have to sell themselves on their skills, but at least this industry credential validates that they have a certain level of technical foundation. So that's kind of I know I'm kind of spieling quickly because I wanted to lay the groundwork first. And so we've worked with schools around the globe. I don't want to say worldwide, probably 8 to 10 different countries at this point in time. But I drew on a couple of our local colleagues to maybe flesh it out. I think rather than hearing from a NetApp marketing guy how wonderful we are and why you should do something, that maybe hearing from one of your colleagues. So Tony, I set you up for the next slide in terms of what you had going on. This was from an email you had sent me, so hopefully you'll recognize it. But I'll let you kick off. Oop. There you go.
Yeah, don't drop it. I'm used to the one that clips right here. Can I do that? There we go. Hopefully it doesn't fall out. Hi. I'm Professor Colson from Cal State University. Now, this is a lot of stuff right here, exploring the deployment and blah, blah, blah. It sounds very technical. So I have a philosophy, which is if the students have interest, they're going to learn. It's that simple. And so I kind of like to take solutions, sometimes warts and all. I could easily buy a curriculum from some vendor who's going to make it so that it's so smooth that the students, they get a big thick book and it says 1, 2, 3, 4, follow these steps and we're all happy, right? At the end, out the back of the Pearson View system comes a grade and I didn't have to do anything. I can do that. It's pretty simple. I don't like to do that. I do it, but I don't like to do it. So last year I was here and ran across Mark. And Mark was a marketing, what was your position with PeopleSoft? You were with PeopleSoft.
In their academic alliance.
Yeah, so I had ran into him years ago when I used to do PeopleSoft stuff, and he told me all about NetApp, and he said, do you want to give it a try? And I said, sure, why not? So I created this class, Now there's one thing I want to get across. Storage is important, absolutely, but it doesn't have to be an entire class. You guys know as faculty that sometimes it takes a while to create a brand new class and to get it through all the curriculum and all the people that will say no, and that what we really need is Latin American history versus storage classes and things like that. So I have a class that they kind of titled as My Class. It's on strategy and policy. And so I kind of make it a rotating topic class. And this time what I did is I said, okay, cloud computing is very important. There are people in my classes that are geeks. Not all of them are geeks, but some of them are geeks. And they are only comfortable when they're interfacing with a machine. Not a real live human being, but a machine. And when you say storage solutions, they get all excited. And they might even start drooling on the keyboard. And then you have some that are going to be the CIOs of companies. And they're more interested in intelligence, business intelligence, and so on. And then I even have the ones that are supply chain people in my IT courses, because evidently there's a tie between technology and supply chain. So I took this class and I said, what can I do? I really like what Mark is prepared to give us here, which is basically training classes, self-paced training classes, plus a simulator for my students to do something. But at the same time, I have these other audiences. So I created a class and I said, okay, here's the way it's going to be. You are all consultants and you need to build a cloud solution for your business. One that can operate the business, provide the intelligence, and have the infrastructure in place. And I gave them 4 options. VMware, they could learn and configure VMware. They could come up with the hardware storage solution, given a case example that I created. They can do SAP, and they can do Hyperion. And their choice, they do it, and if they do more than one, learn one inside out and can demonstrate that they know it inside out, then I have to take the final exam. Now, that sounds like I'm getting off easy, right? Well, understand, I'm the faculty, I have to know a little bit about every piece of it, but what it meant is, what the students didn't see was, that means it's going to be really, really hard. It's going to be really hard. So we took, in the case of the storage, is I gave them a case and I said, here's a company that they're going to have SAP, but they're also got to have file storage, and they have to have this and that. And by the way, here's a simulator, and here's some classes that you would take if you had just bought your NetApp storage system from the vendor. Oh, and make it so in 8 weeks. Yikes. And that's what we did. And all of the teams, they all worked on it. And you know, we had to figure it all out from the beginning because we'd never used the vSim simulator. We'd never configured it in a virtual environment. We'd never done any of that. And so we did it. And now I'm teaching the same class. As a matter of fact, tonight at 8 o'clock, I'm going to teach it online because I'm here. And I'm going to introduce the same thing. And you know all that work those other students did? It's all been wiped out, and they're going to do it again. Because I want to see, as the students group together, are they going to learn? So the ones that are interested in storage, the geeks that like the machines, they love the NetApp. They like it. Yeah, it's painful because I don't give them everything. It's not cookie cutter. It's the way I do it. But it works. I think one of the challenges for professors is that we're constantly getting berated about learning the new thing, and everything's new thing, and especially at the community college level, there's a lot of product push. Would you agree with that? That there's product push. Somebody's trying to say, you have to learn this line of software. Remember, it was Novell engineers, and then it became Microsoft engineers, then it became Cisco engineers. No, anybody in here from Cisco? And now we're pushing, you know, whatever the next thing is, and I think it's going to be cloud and storage and et cetera. It's impossible for us to know how to do everything. So I also represent a national ATE center. It's an Advanced Technology Education Center funded by the NSF. It's called CyberWatch West. Through CyberWatch West, we are willing to host virtual environments for other schools. So if you're worried and you're interested and you say, you know, this sounds kind of interesting, I'd like to try it, we have the vSim simulator pre-configured blank, and we can deploy it for you for your classes if you want to give it a whirl. Is it going to be easy? Is it cookie cutter? Are you going to call Mark and he's going to say, oh yeah, that's no problem, let me solve that for you? No, it's not going to happen that way, because that's not how I've designed it myself. But are there other universities that have done things that they could help you and give you some hints? Yeah, I'd be glad to share my cases. I'm sure it was at Ball State and some of the others. You have a slide of some others that have done things. Some people are taking a much more computer science and engineering approach. I'm taking a very high level approach because I just wanted to see what would happen if. I'm not an engineering program. I'm coming from the College of Business. I'm not an engineering program, but I thought I'd give it a try and appeal to the different people who are at this level going to be seniors graduating soon, and see where they think their strengths are and what they want to learn and what they want to get out of it. I can tell you the first group that went through, not only did they have to configure the system and make it work per my spec, but I had a second group that was their competition. So two groups of students that chose NetApp, they both had to configure and design their own NetApp solution that was working. And they both took different approaches. And they had to present it to the board of directors, the people in the class, with everything down from not only the design, but to demonstrate it and the cost. And then we voted to see who won the contract. It's a different approach. I liked it because it's got competition, it's got people that are interested, the people that chose NetApp were interested in it. And then the other topics all did the same. And out of the people that won, I think 2 or 3 of them, I think I asked you over the summer for accounts for them, they wanted to get engineer, yeah, get the full certification. That's great. In my environment, that works. But I think my overall message here is, if you want to use this, use it, but be creative in how you use it. Don't get stuck right now on just having to create a class and know everything in and out, because there is benefit to having the growth and the growing pains, because storage, we know hard drives have been around a long time, but the management of the size and volume of storage that's being done right now has never been done before. It's new.
I think that I want to just get a couple of. I think that's a perfect segue, maybe to Ramin and your class. So
okay.
Let's have you talk for a few minutes. I want to show you 1 or 2 other examples, and then I want to leave time for Q&A and maybe see if.
No, I like it. Whoops.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to do one better than Tony on how people would learn. They learn it by interest, but I would call that passion. And also the second method would be their livelihood. They have to put the bread on the table based on something, based on knowing its skills. So all these storage stuff are relevant today and practical today just because of the fact that we have so much, every one of us, every one of our kids, every one of the students, they have this addiction to data. Every one of us. What do we do when we're at the stoplight? What do we do when we are getting bored? We're going for what are we doing when we're in the classroom? We're going for those PDAs, or laptops, and all that. And that's what goes back to that original picture, that every minute of the hour, how much data is getting generated. And this is, and managing all this data, all this astronomical amount of data, requires what? New sets of skills, technology of technology. Storage is no longer the grandpa storage. Without virtualization, without knowledge of big data, you cannot manage access all this data 24/7 globally. So this is one of the things that we have to go to the schools and convince the committee, professors, deans, as far as the urgency of having storage curriculum, coursework that would complement any type of information technology certification programs that they may have. So for years and years and years, before 2007, I've been going around the South Bay area, going to the university, trying to get this storage conversation going on. But the universities, they just showed us that now, why? It's not mathematically intense. It's not abstract enough. They can figure it out themselves. Oh, it was a very tough thing to do. Until in 2007, we rolled in introduced two fundamental courses in the area of data storage into our information technology certification program at UC Santa Cruz Extension, which is a continuing education arm of the main campus down in Santa Cruz. So this campus here in Silicon Valley, we put in these two courses, and today we grew up to 9 courses covering data center storage, cloud technologies, big data, server and storage virtualization, etc. And it complements well other traditional tracks in the area of operating system administration, networking and security, and networking fundamentals. Another thing that probably specific to your questions earlier, probably should have get the data from the previous presentation that the BTech research talked about the shortage of employment in the 4 categories, in the 4 different technologies, and one of them was big data. And in their research, they talk about the lack of the database administrators, data scientists, and storage savvy job market bound new hires. So, and last year, when I joined NetApp and met Mark and got into see that what NetApp University has to offer, we added this NCSA certification program into our data storage curriculum, and every enrolled student are given credential resources to go into this 30 hours of self-paced, hands-on learning of data storage from the very fundamental stages up to practical products out there. The NetApp, as one of the leading storage companies, has to offer. So this is a great academic alliance that Mark and NetApp University have established, and it's really helping my night job at UC Santa Cruz Extension. So in this course, and if I have to summarize what kind of topics that we cover, these are the main issues, main technologies, some of the fundamental technologies that are expected from any IT information technology person in the area of data storage, networking. Because even right now, if you get somebody as far as having a network savvy person, also is expected to know something about network storage. Because now the storage is being shared. We talked about a variety of different tiering, virtualization, and another thing that I convinced my UC San Jose extension that, okay, well, to drive from South Bay, San Jose area to SFO, you will see over 20 billboards from 20 different companies that talk about virtualization, data storage, big data, cloud. Obviously, there are some jobs. There are some jobs to be filled in those areas. And as a result, that goes back to that eye chart earlier that Mark showed. Every minute of the hour, how much data is getting produced, generated. As a result, in 2015, the data centers are going to have 3 times more storage devices in the form of software, hardware in them. Why? Because data is going to be 6 times what it was 10 years ago, back in 2010. Number of the users, virtualized machines are going to be doubled. So your data centers are going to be expanding and expanding, and somebody has to oversee, support, sustain, administer all these users, devices, technologies.
Let me just take a couple of other examples. I know we're going to be short time, but I'll leave a few minutes for
Nice to work.
Thank you. I just want to throw in a couple other examples, and then we'll be done with the slides. But this was one example, and I guess one point that I want to make, and I think both of you have touched on it. And 90% of the examples of schools that I work with, they're not necessarily teaching a course on enterprise storage, a dedicated 16-week course. Typically, they're integrating it into an existing course. As Tony, you mentioned, you had kind of a placeholder, information and policy, and figured out how to put it. At this course at Ball State University, this professor was actually teaching a data storage and disaster recovery course. But what I thought was good here was this is a very rigorous course. What he uses is the EMC textbook. EMC is our main competitor. They, I can give them a tip of the hat. They have a great textbook around storage. But what he used was our vSIM and some of our web-based classes to supplement the textbook and the lectures, and was able to compare and contrast a couple different vendors' approach. But kind of like you were mentioning, Ramin, talking about SAN and DAS and NAS. And one thing, you have to understand the technology, but it's almost like there's a new terminology out there: storage tiering, deduplication, all new acronyms. And just to expose your students to that, I think is useful. And kind of like you mentioned, Tony, with a final project, because his course was focused on disaster recovery, he actually had a case-based scenario where the students had to do a disaster recovery exercise, and just like you present to other students as if they were the board of directors and what their environment was for DR. At Rankin Tech, if any of you have read the abstract, I've got, I think, a link to a blog that this professor did. But at Rankin Tech, they were a 2-year technical school. They had a class on network virtualization. The three faculty that were involved in it were all very well certified and experienced in teaching VMware. But the more they focused on virtualization, they realized that there's a storage underpinning to all that, and they wanted to bring that in. So they took our certification content, and actually the first student in the world who passed the certification exam was from Rankin Tech, and Professor Vaughn actually took it. He did not pass it his first time and said, there's no way I'm going to let my students get ahead of me, and he went back at it. He's actually developed some videos and teaching materials that we're going to make available this next semester that he used himself to get up to speed. I think this is the last example, but at this point, this is at Madison Technical College up in Wisconsin, and we were approached by them. We've been working with a few of their schools in the technical community colleges across Wisconsin. Oh, no worries. and they said, look, we really want to implement this. They had reviewed their IT curriculum with their industry advisory board over the summer. And part of the feedback that they got was a gap in their curriculum was around storage. So what they did, and I was thrilled to hear, they went out and they basically looked at all the job ads for storage-related hiring in their area and kept seeing NetApp, NetApp, NetApp. There were a lot of kind of small and mid-tier companies there that, you know, maybe our products fit in. So, you know, basically what they did is, as you say here, the NetApp curriculum, it represents about 10 weeks of a 16-week semester. Again, it wasn't a full course dedicated on storage. This was, I think, a virtualization course as well, and they integrated it into their curriculum. And so this is, you know, just in closing, I wanted to throw out to you, all right, perfect, 5 minutes, that, you know, I think one of the, you know, as I try to point out, we offer a menu of options. Is you can put the toe in the water and just use a storage fundamentals, a 90-minute web-based class. You can use a more in-depth technical course with a virtual simulator, or if you really wanted to go jump into the deep end of the pool, you could integrate in the curriculum and the NCSA, the certification, into your curriculum. And if you look at the schools, this is just to give a sampling of schools. You know, some are 2-year schools, some are 4-year schools, some are business schools, some are universities. And I think it's that flexibility that allows us. We just started working with Bowie State in Maryland. They have a program with Lockheed Martin, was one of their partners. Lockheed is a big partner of ours. I don't know if everybody can work as, but Lockheed actually bought one of these, a FlexPod, an integrated cloud environment for them that's based on NetApp, and they're using that as their student teaching lab. And I think they might have, you know, Citrix as the virtualization partner in there. So basically, we can provide a variety of resources, regardless of what you would be interested in. Hopefully, we could meet some of your needs. And let me open it up to questions. Joe, please.
A couple times the word vSim, what do you mean by your online remote access?
No, vSim would be a virtual simulator. So our web-based classes, so we have a class called, say, Storage Fundamentals. It's 90 minutes, it's web-based, a student logs into that and takes that class, whatever. So that's a web-based course. The vSim is an actual simulator of our software. And you can, as Tony mentioned, he's got it set up and would be willing to provide that access to you, but we can provide it to you where you download it, you have to install it and set it up in a virtual machine environment. It comes with all the licensing and documentation. I think what Tony was alluding to, and I mentioned earlier at lunch today, is I got some feedback from a professor that said, look, we went to install your vSim and it didn't go exactly right. You know, my student had to reinstall this, and we had to look for this, the license, and we had to do this. And I was very apologetic. I said, geez, I'm sorry. I'll talk to the guy. He says, no. This was a great learning experience for my students. When you go to install software, the documentation is never perfect. They had to go through it a couple times. It was a great. So I'm now trying to sell it as a feature to the program rather than a bug. But we do our quality testing, performance testing. So it was something that you can set up in a lab. So our systems engineers, our technical folks, probably all have it loaded on their laptops, but they're pretty high-end laptops. Most schools, I see them approach it 2 ways. Sometimes the instructor might preload it in so that in the computer lab, the vSim is ready to go for the students to start banging away. In other instances, they have the student set it up themselves. But it's software that you download and set up, and it's the exact same commercial software.
We have that before, and you join the Cisco, and then they also sell front end. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
Pretty much like that, you are training pilots, like you put them on
So you don't have to crash the 747. No. And we can provide you exercises to go along with it. Yes. Yeah. It's not a VM as a virtual machine, but it's...
The Windows application is what it is. So we put it into a VM.
Okay. Keep my hands on the recording.
All right. Okay.